Hey, welcome to the show, Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We have a thumbs up. If you're on Twitch, subscribe. Subscribe today. And if you're already subscribed, you can gift subscriptions to some people, as our dear Stargal has done, and Tony has done, and Shadow. Hold on one second. Let me open this up. Boom. Tony from Ireland and Shadow Woman, thank you so much. Stargal, Tony from Ireland, Shadow Woman, Norman Fox, thank you. Jay, thank you. Ninka Crinkles, Daniel, thank you for doing that. Moms Russo, thank you. Bless you. Granty Boy, 1888, thank you for gifting that sub. So there you go. I appreciate it. And then, of course, super chats are a great way to support the show. You become a patron. Patreon.com/HalSparks. Look at me being all professional before each clip. I feel like I have to do this because you might check out as soon as I show you this face. Ah! Why? You know how they, sometimes we'll freeze frame on something and it'll give you kind of a view about how someone feels internally. This is a man afraid. This is their freeze frame. This isn't even mine. This is where they, and this is his show he's trying to pitch to Newsmax, and they didn't take it, so he just does it as a podcast now. And Steve Bannon's producer works on it. But he's on Bannon's War Room, and which the overlap there is just gorgeous. And by the way, wait till they get Steve Bannon's communications, because there's no frigging way this douchebag doesn't have a shit ton of back and forths. Yeah. Trump should not raise money for the NRCC. Finally, something I agree with Matt Gaetz on. Yes, Trump should just take all the money Republicans are giving him and keep it. Piss it away. Spend it on his properties, because that's what he's doing. And every dime somebody gives to Donald Trump is another dime that isn't given to elect Republicans next year. And cash is pretty zero sum. So, yeah, here we go.
Congressman Matt Gaetz. Congressman, there was a...
This is like after interviewing before.
Amazing dinner last night. Donald Trump threw down hard all day long. Mainstream media has been saying, hey, they're not going after the 6th January guys hard enough. They're not doing this. But there's talk about stripping the 13 Republican, basically, collaborationists.
Yeah, there's definitely talk of that. Yeah, talk about that, please. I don't know how to feel about this. It's hard not to interrupt it even. Yes, go ahead.
In Congress that voted for Nancy Pelosi's infrastructure bill and Joe Biden's infrastructure bill, strip them of their committee assignments. Can you give us an update?
Well, Steve, all of the good that Virginia voters did in rejecting Terry McAuliffe was undone by Republicans who let Nancy Pelosi off the hook. We had Democrats on the ropes because of a schism.
By the way, by on the ropes, he means some of the communities in Wyoming and Idaho still have bridges made out of rope.
Pelosi and the squad, she did not have the votes to move this bill. And the interview you had with Mark Meadows.
Yeah, by the way, yeah, she did. The only reason that the squad opted out was because they knew the votes were there from the Republicans. If those votes weren't there for the Republicans, the squad would have voted for it. It was a protest vote. It was completely impotent, but still.
Morning is now sending shockwaves through the Republican conference because, as he typically does, Mark Meadows identified the correct remedy. The Republicans who hold positions of leadership on committees or subcommittees must lose those positions of leadership for having advanced the Biden agenda. We had Joe Biden dead in his tracks. He would have been a lame.
Yeah, you didn't. You didn't, though. You didn't. It was going to pass. See, it wasn't that the squad, if the Republicans hadn't voted, the squad also wouldn't have voted, and therefore it wouldn't have passed. That's not how it works. It was never how it was going to work. They had enough Republicans who were going to vote on it because they knew it was going to pass, and they didn't want to have to run against the infrastructure bill in their district. That's why they voted for it. Now, you would expect someone who works at that place to know those things. But this is a guy. He's nowhere near Washington most of the time. He's usually, dosing underage girls allegedly with ecstasy in hotel rooms with his buddy who's on trial for sex trafficking, in a state other than the state the girl has an ID from. So I can understand it would be confused about the rules and voting procedure.
Duck president, the earliest lame duck president probably in America's history, but now, because of those 13 Republicans, we have a divided party. And frankly, as much as I love the fact that the president told the truth down there at the NRCC, he shouldn't even have gone. I love President Trump, but he should not be helping the NRCC raise money. That money then ends.
Yes. Thank you. Trump, I know you see the show occasionally through your kid, usually only when I fuck with him and make fun of him, and the clip gets passed around your house because all the rest of the family laughs at Don Jr. or Eric. And by the way, there's no differentiation. Whenever I've made an Eric clip, I know for a fact that Don Jr. has watched it and laughed at his brother. And every time I make one about Don Jr., Eric watches it and laughs. And that's just how that family is. I get it. So if somebody passes this on to the old man, you should, and he sees this, you should follow Matt Gaetz's advice. Please do what he says. Please. Don't help.
In the campaign accounts of the people who voted to impeach him. I think that there's a lot of swamp left to be drained in the Republican conference, and Meadows identified the remedy. They have to lose their committee assignments.
Hype train, level 2 hype train. It's coming in right now on Twitch right now. Join in, give it the bits and the butts and the stuff and the subscriptions and do that and help us out. We're trying to get to that 1,000 mark in subscriptions. It's very hard. It's very difficult on Twitch to do it. It's very difficult because you have to consistently do it, and it's a lot, and it's a thing, and if we ever have any chance of getting up into that upper echelon, that's how we're going to do it. Please help.
Leadership.
Matt, Congressman, do me a favor, because this is one of the reasons the audience loves you. You take these complicated topics and break it down. What was
yes. You're great at taking something complicated, oversimplifying it, and talking out of your ass.
Here's what people can't understand. How can President Trump be raising money, and that money goes to some committee apparatus that then farms it out to the very people that are voting against what we're trying to accomplish? How does that work?
Well, it works because most of the time those people will shit all over anything a Democrat floats up unless it actually helps the country in an obvious way, like an infrastructure bill. And you have a choice in those kind of districts, because they're swing districts, that you'll end up with a Democrat in that area if these assholes voted against it, and they know that full well. But the nice thing is even though you know that reality and you're aware of that reality, you're going to hang them out to dry and basically turn one of those 13 districts into a Democratic district next time. So,
President Trump ought to have more command over his brand and not allow the NRCC to be able to use it to raise money for people who voted to impeach President Trump. President Trump usually has very tight control over his brand. I have no idea why he's allowing.
Yeah, it's almost like there's even been stories about let's see. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see if I can find. Let's just do footage on it.
A sign of change.
Hold on. Yeah, usually has much stronger
The West
control
Side,
over it.
the Trump name was removed from a building on Riverside Boulevard between 69th and 70th Streets. Our cameras were there as the T was taken off the building. That's the former Trump Place condo building, and according to the New York.
Yeah, usually he has real control over his brand. He's had such great effect on his brand lately. He really just, that's a
NRCC to use his name. And by the way, Politico did an expose on the fact that, like, the NRCC will send out these messages that say that you're a traitor to Trump if you don't immediately give $5 to them. And yet a lot of that money is ending up right in the hands of the people who we fight against, who fight along.
But by the way, for the record, this is how we're all finding out that the NRCC is not giving any funding to Matt Gaetz because of his legal problems. That's push away if you can. all the bullshit and obfuscation that Steve Bannon and Matt Gaetz are trying to seed into your brain, that this has anything to do with Trump, that this has anything to do with infrastructure, that this has anything to do with infighting in the Republican Party or January 6th. Push all that away. Just don't let go. Just decouple that from your thinking and recognize that there is a single reason why Matt Gaetz is attacking the NRCC. It's because they are no longer giving him money because he's in deep shit and they don't want to fund somebody who's probably going to jail. That's what all of this is about. This whole clip is just him getting revenge on the NRCC because they are cutting him loose because they would be stupid not to. Hype train level 4 almost coming in. We're almost at a number 5 hype train. It's very exciting. The whole thing's very exciting. I'm so excited and I just can't hide it. 740 subscribers on our way to 1,000. Eventually, I swear we'll get there. We were down below 700. Now we're back up to 740. I can't thank you guys enough. Very exciting. Okay.
Nancy Pelosi. Now, Steve, here's how people need to think about Republicans in the 117th Congress. There have been 5.
Yes, here it goes. They should barf. No, that's not. He's not going to say that. How should they think about Republicans in the 117th Congress? Ineffective road bumps. Meaningless, useless eaters. Is that a good phrase?
Votes that have really mattered, that show what we believe and how we will fight. The impeachment vote, the creation of the January 6th committee.
There have been 5 key votes in that. Creating the J6, removing MTG. But yeah, that's the third one is really the anchor. Contempt vote on Steve Bannon. Yeah, what an ass kisser. By the way, Steve Bannon's producer for the War Room and a couple other staff members work with Matt Gaetz' staff to put together his little podcast he does when he's not legislating, because he doesn't. What bills has Matt Gaetz introduced? What amendments? Where's the Matt Gaetz amendment to whatever? Nothing. Fucking nothing. Thank you, Lisa.
Whether or not to remove Marjorie Taylor Greene from
Oh, we're so close to the level 5 hype train. I'm on Twitch. It's so exciting. It's so exciting when it happens.
The Steve Bannon contempt vote and the Biden infrastructure bill. Those 5 votes could together show what we're willing to fight against, and perhaps more importantly, how we view the fight. We have to combat these people every single level. We have to be the opposition to an agenda.
Hi, dumbass. Woo, we got to the level 5 hype train. I'm so excited. That's great. Thanks, guys. That's awesome. Hurrah. Push it real good. Okay, so can I just say for a second, real quick, let me pull this back, that I can understand how they think this is a top line thing, right? This is how Republicans would, go on that. Okay. Because of their criminal endeavors, I can see how this is top line. Both of these are just bullshit, ineffectual. She wasn't doing anything on committees anyways. It's mostly just like bragging rights. The idea that this part, the contempt vote on Steve Bannon, the fact that they would layer this in with these 2 things is insane. And then this week's infrastructure bill, which is actual legislation. Like, this is the only fucking thing in here that even remotely gets close to the normal, effective, like, productive work of Congress. It's the only part of it. Number 5 is the only one that matters in all of this shit in terms of the long-term health of the country. And yet, voting for infrastructure to them is the equivalent of voting against Trump in the impeachment. 25 cents, please. Yes. Thank you. Just like...
level. We have to be the opposition to an agenda that is crushing our people. Every problem that Joe Biden has created over the last 10 months gets worse on this march to socialism. The gas prices get more expensive.
By the way, this march to socialism, which has nothing to do with I know they believe this about the Build Back Better plan, but it certainly has nothing to do with the infrastructure bill. Fucking nothing. Nothing. There is nothing that qualifies in this area. That's why so many Republicans voted for it in the Senate and in the House. It's why it was guaranteed to pass. And that was the concern with the squad, that it was, of course, going to pass. It's a bipartisan infrastructure bill.
The supply chain issues become more complicated, and the inflation continues.
How does supply chain become more complicated because we have better ports? None of this makes any fucking sense.
Crush people who have worked all of their lives. And if we can't even remove John Katko as the head of the Republican team on the home.
Yeah, you can't. Sorry. You can't remove him. Sorry. No. Seniority is good. Yeah. Nope. Not going to happen. Good luck with that, though.
Security Committee from that position, then we're not really serious about the fight. I mean, this is a guy McCarthy designated to go and negotiate against Benny Thompson, and instead he got Stockholm Syndrome. He got sympathetic with his captor. He rolled over for Thompson. He stabbed the Republicans in the back. Now we have this totally out of control, just...
I'm sorry. Am I the only person craving popcorn right now?
For a constitutional January 6th committee to deal with. And, you know, frankly, if John Katko's 0 for 5 on the Big Five, someone explain to me why we wouldn't just rather have a Democrat in that seat. At least the Democrat wouldn't be so.
I have no problems with this whole exchange. I mean, is there an applause emoji that we can send
up
their
the
way?
Space of the Republican lead on the august Homeland Security Committee.
Mark Meadows started to describe it today, but I don't know if we had enough time to develop it. Do you, Congressman?
Yeah, by the way, no one has enough time to develop anything that Mark Meadows says because it's gibberish from the jump.
Raise money for the NRCC?
I'm strange, I'm different. I'm the only Republican in the entire Congress who takes no lobbyist money, no PAC money, and because the NRCC is functionally a money laundering machine to take money from lobbyists and PACs, use the membership to then deliver that money to the leadership, who then go and redistribute those political funds in order to maintain power, in order to preserve or gain the majority. It's just a corrupt game, and I don't want to play it anymore. I actually wrote about it in my book, Firebrand, which people can still pick up on Amazon.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Yeah, I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that they don't want to give you money because they know you're going to fucking jail.
Okay, but what Meadows is saying, when you show up as a congressman, if you want certain committees, and particularly more powerful, influential committees, they give you an amount that you have to go raise. You go raise that amount.
Yeah, no, I said I wanted to be on
the committees.
They told me $75,000 within the next 10 days when I wanted my first committee.
Oh, just spilling the Republican tea. Oh, that's so good. And they're like, yeah, if you want to be on the Armed Services Committee, you got to show us you can raise money up to $75K in the next 10 days. And we don't mean for your legal fees. Basically, they were telling him to go pound sand.
Assignment. So, again, as I write, when I knew they were for sale, I paid twice. When I first got here, I gave $150,000 to secure the committee assignments that I wanted. And that's why, in addition to the Armed Services Committee, I got put on the Judiciary Committee because I had double paid.
Oh, shit. Well, all right. So, I'm sorry. I thought you were under the illusion that you were qualified to be on these committees. Turns out, early on in your career, before you were outed as a pedo-human trafficker who dopes girls before fucking them in a hotel room full of strangers, allegedly, it turns out you were just paying your way onto those things. It makes way more sense now. Seriously, have you heard this drop anywhere? Listen to this shit. How is this not a news clip every time this dickhead wants to get on the goddamn air?
assignment. So, again, as I write, when I knew they were for sale, I paid twice. When I first got here, I gave $150,000 to secure the committee assignments that I wanted. And that's why, in addition to the Armed Services Committee, I got put on the Judiciary Committee, because I had double paid. But committee assignments are regularly bought and sold. The NRCC is the vehicle which allows those corrupt transactions to take place.
Holy shit. I'm going to need to pop some popcorn. This is fucking amazing. Seriously, is there an exchange in this asshole's life that he doesn't pay for? He pays for sex. He pays for his committee assignments. Christ almighty, has this asshole ever earned anything on merit? What the ever-loving fuck? No, Dems do it largely on seniority.
Why I don't participate in their events. It's why I don't pay dues. It's why I don't do the call sheets that they ask us to do.
Yeah, it's because people hang up on you. It's because you spend too much time trying to raise money for your legal fees. Yeah, it's his dad's money. His dad paid for those committee assignments.
I work for the people, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
So when President Trump goes to the convention center, has this massive dinner, raises all this money, who makes the decision that we know the source of proceeds, that's Trump raising it. The use of proceeds, like how does it get divvied up to the 13? A couple of them are retiring, but let's say the 10 that are still remaining. How does it get divvied up to go back and help their campaigns? Who makes that decision?
Well,
oh, this is going to be so good. I mean, it largely doesn't. There's over 200 people in the House. They're going to go to races that need it the most, especially more often than not. It will be those folks because they're the ones in the swing districts, which is why they're not voting hardline with Trump. And that's starting to ease. And these assholes can't let anybody get off the Trump train because once a few people make for the exits, everybody's going to recognize the fucking thing is crashing and dive out the windows.
Well, the short answer is that the leader makes those decisions. The long answer is that there is a board at the NRCC that rubber stamps what the leader really wants to see in terms of the distribution of those funds.
So in other words, so how can this audience start to influence that being stopped? You know, this posse is always looking for...
Yeah, they can't. They can't, but I'm glad they will. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Yes, people, the War Room posse, you guys should definitely go after the NRCC. They're a bunch of corrupt assholes who are giving money to people who don't deserve it in the Republican Party. And yeah.
Activities that they can put their shoulder to the wheel that have importance or have, impact. What would you recommend to our audience to do about this particular topic?
Sure. Here's what you know about the current Republican conference. We aren't in a position to win with this team if we couldn't even deliver the win that Nancy and Pelosi and the squad had handed to us. And so that increases the importance.
Yeah, they didn't hand you the win, stupid. They only didn't vote for it because they knew the Republicans were voting for it. If there weren't enough Republicans, there were enough Democrats. They would have voted for it to get it through. The only reason they did it as a protest vote is because they knew it was going to pass anyways. It was impotent and stupid, and I don't agree with it, but that's why. As a matter of fact, the fact that the squad didn't vote for it gave those guys even more cover to vote for it. Fucking dumb.
Of the new members of Congress that we are going to get in the upcoming class. And so, Marjorie Taylor Greene and I have both told President Trump, we want to make sure the Congress is better prepared for the second Trump term than we were for the first Trump term. And so we're out there.
Oh, yes, no one was prepared for that. Although you had all the fucking time in the world and you still didn't do shit.
Candidates like Joe Kent, who's a favorite on War Room, Anthony Sabatini in Florida. We're going to be campaigning alongside Graham Allen in South Carolina, running against Tom Rice on November 18th. And, we need donations. Marjorie and I do, because I don't give money to the NRCC. So if people go to MacGaetz.com, that those funds are going to be used for my reelection or so that I can go and campaign.
Well, you can't be reelected if you're under indictment. So, obviously, some legal fees.
To get actual backup, so we have people with backbone who will fight. But the fight right now is within the Republican conference to determine what we will tolerate. Because if we will tolerate this dissension from these 13, they'll do it again, and we won't be in a position to govern.
Yes, never. You got to make sure that they vote in lockstep with the leader of the party, for freedom. Because the Republican, the Democrats want socialism. They want collectivism. And the Republicans are the party that believes in individual freedom. That's why you must always vote exactly as we want you to and follow the line. And anyone who steps outside will be punished. Okay?
If the voters do give us the majority.
What? Who is it? Is it him? Was that Chip or Murph? Okay.
Why we've got to reshape just the frame and the nature of the Republican conference. And you were totally right this morning, folks. Have got to go back and watch your interview with Mark Meadows. Meadows showed us through his leadership of the Freedom Caucus how you can actually do it with a small group of dedicated people.
By the way, I call them the Freedom Caucasians for obvious reasons.
You can be a rudder for the ship, you can set a clear course, and we can put ourselves back on a path to winning again.
Well, now, what happens if you have a broken paddle?
How can this posse
on
the stripping of the committees? How can they? Is it call emails to their congressman? Is it to leadership? Because we can put
fax. I think faxing would be good. Carrier pigeon. Give that a try.
Numbers up and put them in the live chats and across all the forums. What should be done here? Because people are outraged about this, that these 13, Nancy Pelosi at 11 o'clock on Friday night was finished. She was done, right? It was the end of her reign.
No, stupid. No, it was not. It was never. Don't even float that idea. And by the way, I'm glad they are, because they're attacking their own using this. But there's no fucking way. There's no, sorry, if they didn't have the votes from, the squad would have come back and voted for it to get it through if they didn't have the Republican votes. It's just silly. It would have passed. There's more Democrats than Republicans. It's silly. It's just stupid. Who's Bannon's stylist? I think he goes to Old Navy, the original edition, like really Old Navy. Like, y'all know me. You know what I do for a living. Cage goes in the water. You go in the cage. Shark's in the water. Our shark. Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies.
And it was the end of Biden's presidency, and 13 Republicans got him off the hook. So,
not true, but let's all applaud them and make sure that they continue to believe this. Just for the record, it's good stuff.
People to do.
Really, the next thing we need is the Freedom Caucus to take the position that these folks should lose their leadership positions, because that demonstrates really the first critical mass of.
Yeah. If anything, if the Freedom Caucus stands for anything, it's lockstep behavior. So, I mean, it's freedom in air quotes, with a little bunny fuck you, little bunny fuck you. The
representatives who could speak to this issue and who could put pressure on the leader to do the right thing. I want Kevin McCarthy to do the right thing to show that this will not be tolerated. Steve, if Nancy Pelosi lost 13 members on a vote like this, you would be identifying the bodies by their dental records. Okay, she would never talk.
Well, no, on the first vote, they didn't have enough to actually pass it, so they pulled it because they would have lost more than that. And then they worked and they actually ended up passing the bill. You're really not this dumb, are you? Yeah, he is. He's that dumb. He's that dumb.
They're in the majority, we're in the minority, and we lost more than twice as many votes as she did. And so I think that shows lack of cohesion with the team. But I do think that strong, swift action that would impose a little discipline on those votes would have a very therapeutic effect throughout the conference, and it might get us back into the posture where when the voters trust us with the majority, we will actually.
By the way, Lynette, I think that bunny icon should be the quotes when we're calling bullshit on something. Like, it should just be little bunny fuck you. Should be the like, we should put bunny ears on either side of it from now on. That's whenever we're doing quotes from now on, when I do stuff, I'm going to put those on there. That's good. And only you guys will get it.
fight for them and deliver for them instead of having a group that rolls over.
Yeah, it's like the French army in World War One. Real quickly, how did they
Yeah, it's exactly like the French army in World War One.
not even whip enough that you had to force the Democrats to get to 218, and then if you want to have a jailbreak, okay, but force them to pass the bill themselves? How could the whip count? How could the whip not even deliver that? We got about a minute.
Yeah, sure. So you're going to love this. The Republican leadership's answer to us is, well, we can't control
That's right. The freedom. That's exactly right, Bob.
these people because a lot of them are retiring and they want to go be lobbyists. And so they're already doing the bidding of the lobby corps. But it's a culture that allows that. If these members want to go be lobbyists and have already sold out their constituents in their vote to do that, we should let it be known that they will not be welcome in Republican offices anymore. But it really is driven by K Street, and that's what's so despicable about it.
Unbelievable. Tell us about the podcast, the book, and how do people get to you?
Yeah, I don't give a shit about any of that. I do support 100% them eating their own. Seriously, this is like watching this asshole gnaw his own feet off.
Social media, and also how they get to you on your campaign site.
Yeah, folks can go to mattgaetz.com, donate, join my team. That
they can, but will they?
allows us to be able to recruit that next generation of fighters as well. My podcast is called
That's not true. V. Gabriel, that is not fair. V. Gabriel says Matt will not be lobbying. He absolutely will. For, cigarettes and Snickers. I'm sure he'll come out with some sort of fair trade.
Firebrand comes out every Thursday morning. It's hot as can be, man. Over 2 million listens.
Sad as can be, man. Over 2 billion downloads.
Rumble just in the last 2 episodes.
By the way, how does Vish get to be like the great producer after he left work? Just kidding. Say hi to Vish.
Hey, you know what? We like him war room, banned and trained in the Gaetz office.
Oh, there you go. That's January 6th committee. There's a little slice of evidence for you, by the way. We like them war room, Bannon trained in the Matt Gaetz community.
Congressman Gaetz, thank you very much. The podcast is Firebrand. The book is Firebrand. You get it on Amazon. Of course, you can get him everywhere on social
And it makes great kindling.
media. Congressman Gaetz, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Steve.